Jerry Bergonzi.
Thank you. Usually when I'm put in these sorts of situations, I take a whole bunch of questions, and I'm just waiting for my pen and piece of paper, and I'll write them down, and I'll just start answering them, maybe not in the order that I got them, and you can feel free to interrupt me, to agree, to disagree. So go ahead, give me some questions. What questions you think you might want to ask me or ask ourselves? Yes. Yes.
I was wondering if you could maybe explain some things about your book that has the ABCD labeling of the intervals.
Oh, yeah, the intervallic book?
Yeah, intervallic book.
Yeah.
Right. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that way of taking the theme and then building variations in that.
Sure. Yeah. What do you got?
Mine was when you sit down to practice the tune, if that's what you do, how do you do that? How do you go? What's the process?
Okay, well, I'll answer those two questions, and then I'll take more questions. We'll get started. So you feel free to interrupt me or agree with me, disagree with me. The intervallic book is, out of all I have 7 books out. Thank you. Thanks. I have 7 books out, and all of them are self-explanatory, except for that one. It's the weirdest book because it's open-ended. I use it for many things. I have a class at New England Conservatory where I teach an intervallic course on composition and improvisation. So what I have my class do is I have them, for example, write every week they have to write a tune. And one week I said, okay, I want you to pick 4 intervals, and you have to write the tune using only those 4 intervals. So they write a melody with the 4 intervals. And then I might say to them, okay, you have to write a melody with 4 intervals, but the intervals have to be played before they were repeated. So if the intervals are half step, whole step, minor third, and major third, they couldn't play 4 major thirds in a row because that's really confining. Sometimes I'll say, okay, let me hear you write a tune with just 3 intervals, a melody. Or say if it's an AABA tune, you can make the B section different. Or A, B, C, D, E, like a through composed tune. Every section could be different intervals. It could be 2 intervals, 3 intervals, or 4 intervals, or 5 intervals. And a lot of times I compose the bass like that as well. So what you have is you get a non-traditional bass line that could be with major thirds or half steps, so it's not cycle of fifth. So they come up with some tunes that are completely different sounding, things they would not have heard. Aside from that, what I do, this book, I forget how many pages, there's 1,852 melodies, I think. And each page, at the top of the page, lists the intervals that the melodies are composed on. And they have to sing those melodies both by interval, and sometimes I'll play a triad, and they'll sing the whole page over that triad, like I'll play a C major triad, or an E major triad, or an A flat minor triad, or any 7th chords. So basically it's like they have to hear all those tones over the triad. So the book is for ear training, it's for composition. Then I'll say, okay, let's try to improvise and use these kinds of intervals. And I tell them melody trumps chords. So if you want to play something that's kind of intervallic, that goes through the changes, as long as you know where you are in the tune, let's try it. So that's what I use that book for. But I also use it for this. Each melody, like the beginning of the book, I think it's like there's 2 bars of all eighth notes, then it lands on a quarter note. So I have them play the whole page in eighth note. 1, 2, 3, 1 in, 2 in, 3. Then I have them play 5 over 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, it's like 10. Dugga, 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 dugga. That's 10 over 4. Then I play dutton, 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 dutton. That's triplets. Then dugga, 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 dugga. That's 14 over 4. So then I'll double time dugga, 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 dutton, dutton, dugga, dugga, dugga. So they're playing all these different time things over the, and they play the same line, and they start getting real flexible with their time. So they can play eighth notes, triplets, quintuplets, septuplets, double time, and that's another great way to practice. That unto itself is worth the price of admission. You're welcome. How do I practice a new tune? Is that the question, right? First of all, I have a love affair with a melody. I play the melody over and over again, and until I feel like, yeah, I can phrase it the way I like to phrase it and make it my own. If it's a standard tune, like with lyrics and all that, I'll learn the lyrics, or I usually have singers who sing, I have a million Frank Sinatra records, so, or, all my favorites, Dinah Washington, and I might have learned the lyrics through listening to them, and then I'll play the melody freely. But then, as I'm playing the melody, I go through and figure out what brings that melody to life, what the harmony is, and I make sure I know all the chord scales and the chord tones and all that jazz. So, but if you had to ask me, well, what's the first thing? If somebody like I'm doing a recording and they just throw a sheet in front of me, I'm thinking, what's the form of this tune? Is it a 32-bar tune? Is it a 12-bar 16? Is it 33-bar tune like Monk's Panonica, with this an extra bar in the last A section, or is it a 21-bar tune? So, and how do the changes land? Is it 8 bars, 9? That sort of thing. And then I try to put the changes together. If I can, I'm thinking, this is just 1-6-2-5, 3-6-2-5, 1 dominant 7 to 4 major to flat 7. But a lot of course, new tunes aren't like that. So I think intervallically. I think, the bridge, like to Have You Met Miss Jones, it goes to 4 major. And after I go to 4 major, I go down a whole step, 2-5-1. I go down another whole step from that major chord and go 2-5-1. I go tritone away, 2-5-1. I go up a half step, 2-5, and that's the bridge. So all the tunes that I know like that. I don't just know the changes. I have a schematic in my mind, in my ear, of how these changes function. So that's how I learn it. Questions? Yes?
I just had a question about what you had said about Chuck's question for the book. You said you have your students sing a triad over the changes?
I play the triad and they sing these melodies over the triad. These kind of, for lack of a better word, atonal melodies, intervallic melodies that aren't written on chord changes. But I'll play a chord, and they have to sing these melodies over that triad or 7th chord that I might be. Yeah. So it's I use the book for ear training, rhythm training, composition. It's just open-ended. And it kind of breaks finger patterns. When you practice these lines, they just go to places you wouldn't normally go. Yes?
So along those lines, when you're using those sort of melodies, like in your compositions, do you use those, because it's almost like intervallic, like serialism is what it seems like to me. So, I've heard other people say that they might use serialism to take a melody in a direction they wouldn't normally go, even though they don't consider themselves like serialism writers.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's like the same way that you use this intervallic?
I'd say so. Sometimes, every tune that I've ever written, I don't have a formula. I don't use formulas for writing tunes. I get inspired. Sometimes, I'll get inspired from another tune. I'll hear a tune and say, man, I want to write a tune like that. And I sit down and write a tune like that, and it comes out nothing like the tune I was inspired by, but that I got my original inspiration from something else. Or I might say, yeah, I want to write a tune that has a lot of kind of rhythms that go over the bar line. Or I want to write a tune with a bass line, and I'll write the changes over the bass line. Or I might want to write a tune that is on standard set of chord changes, a bebop sort of tune. Or I might write a straight eighth, 3/4 Latin tune or something like that. So I get ideas like that, general ideas, and then I fill in the blanks. I don't write on the piano or my instrument. I write away from the piano, and I get more bang for the buck like that. Like I sit down and I'll be on the road, have a day off or something, I'll just be in my hotel room in the afternoon and write 4 tunes, and do the same the next day. I can just kind of pump them out. If they sound good, great. If they're horrible, who cares? I'm still having fun writing them. Yes.
How do you approach phrasing?
That's like, how do I approach breathing,
What do you feel about the structure of a solo as it relates to its whole? So, like, building it from the beginning. How do you approach that? Like, how do you create a good solo?
How do I develop a solo? I've always thought, anytime I have a preconceived idea, oh man, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this hot line on this when I get to these changes. Man, it totally messes me up. I get to that spot because my mind is tunnel visioned out. I call it spotlight consciousness and floodlight. Spotlight is I'm just looking at that clock. So when I have a preconceived idea, I see this clock, and that's what I want to do in a solo. But the rest of the room is shut off. So I guess what I would say that when I'm soloing, I'm floodlight. I'm just open. I'm listening to the rhythm section, and I'm just trying to get. I might try to not play everything I know in the first chorus and pace myself. So pacing is very important. I was just reading a book yesterday on the way here. It's called Art and Beauty, and it were passages from Plato and Socrates, and there was about 12 other people. And the first thing, which I never thought of, was the art of measurement. That you really can't talk about art unless you have the concept of measurement. So I thought, what do they mean by this? So how long is your solo? I mean, is it open-ended? You're going to take a 4-hour solo? Or is it you have 8 bars with a big band? You have to come up with the goods. You can't sit there and develop. You got to come up and. A lot of those guys played the same solos every night because they knew it was going to work. Or they might have changed it a little bit, but they had to come up with something that worked. If you're playing in this little place, this little club, and you play with a band you're comfortable with, you just stretch out, and you can play long solos. And I think through experience, you learn how to create and develop a solo. And it's whether you use motivic kind of devices, through compose, where you purposely don't play motivic things, it's through composed, or I'll take rhythmic devices, and I try to remember what I just played. So I might take something from what I just played and make sense to what I'm playing. So a little exercise, you could take the last several notes, could be 1 note, 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes, of what the last phrase you played, and start your next phrase with those notes. And do that sort of thing. Another little exercise, and this, you can just try this yourself. You could do it on a chord, you could play it on a tune, you could do it free. You play 1 note. Then you follow it up with another note. You play both notes. Then you keep adding a note. You play note 1, 2, 3. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how long you can go before you say, man, what was that? I don't remember what that note is. Great, because you have to, it's tonal recall, what you just played. And that has an impact on what you'll play next. So I use every device at my disposal to create a solo, but none in particular. I'm not thinking. I don't have a method. That's my method.